We have a major update revolving around the Phoenix Suns as Shams Charania just dropped a bombshell trade update revolving around one key player in restricted free agency that Brian Gregory and Matt Ishbia have been keeping an eye on dating back to last season. And with more updates coming through on this star player, potential of him going to the Phoenix Suns is out there as the Suns have submitted a concrete trade offer. So we're going to go over what the possibility of that trade offer is. Is it likely that this could happen for the Phoenix Suns? And ultimately, if this did get done, what would be the all-term solution? We'll be diving into all of that and more on this episode of Suns Digest. I'm your host, Bruce Veliz, and you guys have been absolutely fantastic showing your love and support here on the channel. I really do appreciate all the comments you guys have been sharing on our latest videos detailing the news. And yesterday we saw two signings come through with Jordan Goodwin and Jared Butler now joining the Phoenix Suns. And we're going to dive into those in the stream later today alongside many other things. So come join us at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific if you want to get some more info on the Phoenix Suns. But if you don't, no worries, just go check out those videos as we detailed them yesterday. Without further ado, though, let's dive in and let's get into the topic at hand today, revolving around Jonathan Kuminga. So make sure to grab that snack and let's get into it. As ultimately, I think that the perfect way to describe this whole mess with the Phoenix Suns is that this is a very complicated situation and for many reasons as well. We all know from the latest reports from Shams Charania that the Kings and the Suns are the top two teams that are currently in pursuit of Jonathan Kuminga, with both teams apparently making offers and being aggressive with trying to pursue the star player. The Warriors would like to bring Jonathan Kuminga back. It wouldn't obviously be opposed to it, but Jonathan Kuminga was said from Shams Charania to want a bigger role, and it doesn't look like that's going to be presented in Golden State, which ultimately is letting Kuminga to potentially try to take his offers in a sign-and trade, in which the Suns and the Kings are the two teams that are being the most aggressive about that. And that makes sense for the Phoenix Suns, right? Obviously, they just dropped underneath the first and second apron, so they have all the flexibility in the world. They can offer Jonathan Kuminga any type of contract that they would like. And in a sign-in trade specifically, they would essentially be trading away salaries on this roster here that would be, not taking any more added salary on to kind of put them into the first apron. Maybe if they gave them a little bit of an extension, they would be a little bit closer to the first apron. But with doing a Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade, it does look like with the salaries that they would be sending out, the Suns at this point would not be going into the first aprons, avoiding those penalties, and still having a little bit of a nice core kind of to build in with. And that's where I stated here, where it does make sense the Suns would be aggressive for a Jonathan Kuminga, right? They were interested in him last season when they tried to do a Kevin Durant trade. The reported rumored package was two firsts, Butler and Kuminga for Kevin Durant. Obviously, that was nixed by the Warriors and nixed by Kevin Durant because he didn't want to get traded midseason. The Warriors heard about that, then it completely called off the trade. But the Suns have been interested in Jonathan Kuminga for a while now. But the real question, in my ultimate opinion, is do the Warriors see the value of what the Suns have to offer? Is like I mentioned, we want to dive back and look at this. For a player like Jonathan Kuminga, who is looking probably close to $20 to $25 million here in restricted free agency, the Suns would have to give up either one or two contracts to do so. They could give up Grayson Allen if they sign Jonathan Kuminga to roughly right around $20 million. But if they were to sign him to around 25, they could obviously get out of the contracts of him and Royce O'Neal, which would equal to right around $27 million, with the Suns saving $2 million. Or they could use a contract in Nick Richards, who's roughly around $5 million, to ultimately get them to 22 and maybe have them take on a little bit of extra money, like I mentioned, but still not going above and into that first apron. But personally, I don't think the Warriors are going to be that excited with the pieces of Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, and Nick Richards. You could argue that for the Warriors, team looking to compete and contend, they could use some of these great role players. Once again, another three-point sniper in Grayson Allen could be very beneficial for a guy in Steph Curry, right? Royce O'Neal, obviously, as a 3-and-D wing, could provide some good services. And even Nick Richards, they do have a big problem now losing Kevon Looney, could provide some solid depth, even if they do not add Al Horford as a backup center, or even if they did, supplementing that front court a little bit deeper. But ultimately, in my opinion, I think that the Warriors view Grayson Allen very similarly to Buddy Hield. They already have him on a contract, and I don't think they're going to want two of those guys. Not to mention that Grayson Allen is on a 3-year contract, where Buddy Hield is on a 1-year contract, where they can get off that money a little bit easier going into next season and still have that flexibility going into next offseason to retool their roster. Ultimately, if they kind of trade Jonathan Kuminga for Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal, they're locking themselves into those contracts and locking themselves into a team built around Steph Curry with those role players. Now, that's something that they think might be a little bit better, but I don't think so. I think the Warriors will likely keep Jonathan Kuminga and would rather hold on to him because I think they would rather look for a deal during the season, particularly near the trade deadline, in which a team like the Bulls, maybe even the Suns, once again get aggressive with the Golden State Warriors, and maybe they could do a 3-team, 4-team trade to ultimately get what they wanted out there in like a star level type player to replace Jonathan Kuminga, because they feel that Jonathan Kuminga can be a star, and I do think that Jonathan Kuminga can be, a very solid, secondary or third option on a championship level team if he does rise up to those standards that he's supposed to be. But we haven't seen him fully been able to expand that within this Warriors lineup, with Steve Kerr not really playing him, and also with Jimmy Butler and him kind of clashing once Jimmy Butler kind of came, not on the court, but with their play styles, as they both play very similar basketball, where they, both kind of need to control the ball in their hands, and they're both kind of those defensive mechanisms, and they both play that wing position, kind of inhabiting it, in my opinion. And I feel like a guy in Jonathan Kuminga doesn't complement what Jimmy Butler can't do on the court, as they very similarly bring the same qualities, and with that kind of thing, you can't play them together, and then Jonathan Kuminga's minutes get staggered, and then he has a lesser role, and then Steve Kerr's just like, well, I'm just not going to play him because he just doesn't fit in, and that's the situation that we're put in here. So ultimately, I do think that for the Phoenix Suns, if they're able to trade Grayson and Nick Richards or Grayson and Royce, they should do this deal, because I do think, even though Jonathan Kuminga does come with a little bit of question marks and mystery, I do think that if this is the vision you want to set of being a younger, more youthful, energetic, building through the process team around Devin Booker, having Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga as those two potential budding stars that could either grow into one-star combined level talent, or potentially one of them does grow into that secondary player and they can move the other one. It gives them the options to really field and try to get the best plausible young talent that can really blossom on their team alongside Booker to shape them up for this new culture and new identity. Also, with the Suns having a little bit of a weird hole at that power forward position, a guy in Jonathan Kuminga could easily slot in and play that power forward position alongside Mark Williams, alongside Dillon Brooks, Devin Booker, and Jalen Green to really complement that starting five and to get fans at least a little bit more bought in on what this vision can become, and kind of seeing, I guess, some star level name value in a guy in Jonathan Kuminga, who could be available for this team. But like I've stated multiple times here, personally, I don't think that it's going to get done. I think that obviously the Suns view this new core structure obviously being something great that they could build upon, right? With adding Jonathan Kuminga, adding him to Jalen Green, like I mentioned, Devin Booker, then having the developments of Kaman Malawach, Ryan Dunn, Oso Ighodaro, Rasheer Fleming, Kobe Bryant, etc., to build around Booker, and that kind of resembles what these teams like Indiana and Oklahoma City have been doing these past couple seasons. So it makes sense for the blueprint for this team going into it. But ultimately, like I mentioned, I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. Obviously, the first part, I think, and the hardest part of this is getting them to accept a sign and trade with Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal. And I do not think that this is a problem the Warriors want to I think the Warriors can deal with this problem going into the season. I don't think it's a problem that they have to, certainly eliminate in this offseason. So I think that's why it's something that they could kind of bring on. But if they feel that they can't and they have to just kind of take a deal, maybe Grayson and Royce is enough. But I feel like if Grayson and Royce were enough, this deal would have already gotten done. And Brandon Clean said that on Locked On Suns as well. And it makes sense, because ultimately, in my opinion, I feel like Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal have really no value for this team. And I've stated multiple times on my own doing as well, with just how this team is going to look, and with potentially running double big and having Brooks and Dunn playing that wing position. I don't really know where there's a role for really Royce O'Neal. Grayson Allen can find some within this new guard rotation, but if they're going to have Jordan Goodwin and Jaren Butler and Colin Gillespie and Devin Booker and Jalen Green in this 5-guard rotation, it's very hard with Grayson Allen to ultimately fit. Obviously, he's the 3-point specialist. He brings something a little bit different. But if Kobe Bryant starts to peak, maybe that's an option that pivots them to maybe make a different move so they can extend him, similar to what they tried to do with Colin Gillespie last season, to secure him and have him locked up long-term, playing a solid 3-point shooting role on a guaranteed roster spot. So ultimately, a lot of ramble, very, very complicated situation for the Suns. But like I mentioned, they are interested in Jonathan Kuminga. Ultimately, there has been no discussion of what the package would include, but in all discussion, it would have to include Grayson Allen, obviously, and most likely either Royce O'Neal and or Nick Richards to get the deal done. We'll have to see if the Warriors do, just become just careless at this point and kind of just don't really want to speed their offseason process because this Jonathan Kuminga thing has been taking too long and they take this deal, but ultimately I do not think that they will. I think they will kind of hold out the processes, and we will see Jonathan Kuminga going back to the Golden State Warriors and potentially traded at the trade deadline. But that's kind of my opinion. I just don't think that Grayson and Royce held that value to the Warriors that necessarily that they would around the league, not due to the fact that they didn't play that great this season, having totals down in both their points and field goal percentage, but also for the fact that they are locked up on 3-year deals, and that's not really team friendly for anyone that's really trading for them when they just had realistically one of their lowest seasons in the past couple of years. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Let me know what you guys ultimately think on the Phoenix Suns and all this updates. And I'll catch you guys hopefully in the stream, but if not, next time. Have a great rest of your day, and go Phoenix Suns. Peace out, everyone.